Welcome to another Blue Room Weekly with myself, Warren, and I'm joined this week by Les. And it's been a brilliant week being an Evertonian, Les. We've been able to smile, we've been able to enjoy a win, and it's certainly different when Everton do get a win. It definitely puts a spring in your step. I know I wasn't as envious of other teams this week, and certainly not as looking forward to a Monday, I suppose, in work. But yeah, it's been enjoyable to say the least. And just initially, Les, I know the lads have been talking about it a lot this week on Blue Monday and on the byline. But your initial thoughts on Sunday's win against Spurs?
It was nice, wasn't it? It was. I mean, they made us sweat it at the end, but I think it was just good to see the team. I'm not going to say unleashed, because that would kind of make out that we've got like these players who we can just unleash on other teams and tear them apart. But it was nice to see them sort of released a bit. I think you could see that Moyes had said to certain players, "Run at Spurs. You've got the skill to do things in a game." Whereas I think I think it's quite clear that Dice was holding them back and sort of saying, just defend at all costs and then get the ball up quickly. There are a few things where we played it across the back nicely, but it wasn't the sort of suicide football like Peterborough were playing against us in the cup, whereby they start playing it around the back, really close to the goal. In the end, they just had to sack that off because they were just running themselves into trouble. Thankfully, we weren't doing that. We were quite intelligent with the ball. I think the main thing I was impressed with was the tweaks that Moyes made to the setup. So it was, we brought Jake O'Brien in, who I thought again had a really good game. He looked solid. He started to get a bit tired towards the end, but obviously, he will, because he's not played properly for months. But I thought he looked really good, and it was that sort of back 3/back 4. We had Lindstrom dropping in occasionally to cover right back. I thought that worked really well. It kept the defence solid. It actually gave Mykolenko a little bit more room to go forward as well, because he knew if he got forward, which I don't think I've ever seen him do, he'd have a back 3 to cover. So I think I'm a big fan, and I know Moyes is obviously a big fan of having attacking fullbacks. And I think he kind of worked that system with the players he's got, which I just thought was great. And it was just nice to, as I said, we couldn't relax fully until the final whistle, but it was nice to just get that lead and think, what, we're fully in control of this game. I'm sure we'll come on to the end of the game soon, but yeah, it was just a nice weekend, wasn't it?
It was, and I think the main thing I took away from it was a very Everton performance. Never mind Moyes, but it was a very Everton performance I don't think we've seen for a while. I mean, goals coming from open play. There was a certain fluidity in our play, and I agree with you. It wasn't exactly full throttle, expansive football, and we didn't exactly, to use your word, unleash, the players onto Tottenham. But there certainly was, as you said there, a lot of good tweaks and a lot of small things that just allowed players to express themselves a bit more. And I've heard the word freedom a lot used this week by certain players in the squad, and that has to be the blueprint now going forward.
Sorry, did you ask me something then? Sorry. I'll cut this out, mate. It went off as soon as you said. Did you say
I was waiting then. I was like, have I worded that? I'll do it again. I'll redo it again.
Okay, mate.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that one of my observations and my takes from the game was goals from open play. And it was a lot more fluid, I think, our performance. And like you said, Les, I don't think it was, in any way did we unleash the players. And it wasn't exactly, free flow and expansive football. But I agree with you. There was tweaks there that just brought the best out of some individuals who've maybe not performed at the best. You mentioned Lindstrom and Mykolenko there. I thought the midfield were really good. And I've got a stat here, actually, just while I remember, that I read today, and I don't know how true it is, but it's certainly, even if it's not true, it sounds like it could be true. And it's this stat here: no Premier League side has won more tackles in the attacking third of the pitch than Everton have in Moyes' first 2 games. So in Moyes' first 2 games we've created more tackles in the attacking third, which that speaks a lot of volumes. And again, alluding to the tweaks that you mentioned, and I think that has to be the blueprint going forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that does sound like it could stand up, because one thing with Dyche's teams was they just dropped further and further back as the game went on. You'd see it and you get frustrated, wouldn't you? Even if we went 1-0 up, the team would retreat. They'd come out the second half, they'd probably be 10 yards further back, and they just drop back every game. It feels like Moyes has said to them, the press looked much better for a start, didn't it? You could see the players were pressing, and they were pressing a bit higher up the pitch, which it makes a hell of a difference. And I think he has found a way to fit in. Like, I think the problem we had, one of the problems we had with Dyche was defensively he set it up sound, but obviously once we got past the halfway line, it fell apart. There was just nothing there. The players weren't, taking responsibility. The manager clearly wasn't telling them like any patterns to play or anything, or in training. There was no forward play at all. I think Moyes has found something there where he can fit in that defensive solidity, but you have got, like I said, the fullbacks or the auxiliary wing backs, maybe when it goes to a 5, they've got the freedom to get up the pitch. Then when you've got Mangala, he was moving forward a bit more. Decore, I thought, was all right for the game. He pressed quite a bit. He pressed quite well. He still looks so ungainly, and I don't want him anywhere near our goal. But I think, if we can bring players like maybe Garner back, Arubanum, or, anyone else who can maybe fit into that position where he plays, McNeil maybe, and sort of phase him out and bring him on as more of an impact player, I think that'll be even better for us. But yeah, it was... Spurs weren't great, and I was quite surprised. I didn't even realise they were 15th going into that game. I didn't realise they were quite that bad. And they obviously weren't great. Postecoglou's having a terrible time of it. He just doesn't seem to know how to set up a team to win at the minute. But let's say a month ago, Everton might not have taken advantage of that. We've played some teams who look at Bournemouth away. They weren't in great form. They've been in great form before and after, but I think in that game, they weren't particularly good. They won't look at that game and say, oh, yeah, we were on form there. But we had no answer to anything that they offered. We had nothing going forward. We didn't have a shot on target. So I think the changes he's made, it does definitely give us a blueprint, as we'll talk about soon. I think the Brighton game, going into that and, the games beyond, it's really nice to be positive, isn't it? It's, one sort of complaint I might have is that he Moyes took that retro day a bit seriously and made the Weir sub that threw us into quite a bit of bother at the end. I don't know about you, the one thing that probably tempered it for me was it felt a lot like Bournemouth in a way, and I don't know if we got away with this one because Spurs maybe didn't attack us like Bournemouth did, but that last 15 minutes was pretty horrible. And it did feel like, Spurs had all the pressure once they scored that goal, which again was kind of our own fault. It was, there was no need to concede that first goal. As nice a goal as it was, we just ran ourselves into trouble there. Pickford wasn't great. I don't think Branthwaite was great in that moment either. So it's sort of, those frailties are clearly still there. Thankfully, we got 3 goals and we managed to ride it out. It feels like that was just a little bit too far for Spurs to go, but there's still those issues there, so we can't get too carried away. I don't want to be like bring the mood down, but there are still those deficiencies there that we did ride out. But going into the game on Saturday, again, that's going to be another tough game. Bit of breathing space now though, because we've won that one, so the Brighton game takes on a little bit less significance for me. But I don't know, what did you think about that in comparison to Bournemouth? Did that cross your mind as you were like watching it?
Do you know what? I weirdly, and I'm one of them, I get nervous when it goes to a situation like that. But I just felt that we played so well, and it felt a little bit like it was slap bang wallop, the 2 Spurs goals. And I just felt going into the last sort of 5 minutes, I thought we'd be all right. I didn't feel the usual nerves that I usually get when we're in that position. But I don't know, it just felt a little bit different. It felt a little bit like they were more switched on as opposed to like the Bournemouth game where we just collapsed.
Yeah.
It felt like there was more of a structure there, and like you said, look, the squad's got deficiencies. We know that, and I don't think we're all, all of a sudden because of one win going to be saying that we're going to be climbing high and aiming for the top half of the table or anything like that. But I just think it was so obvious how much of a change there's been in recent weeks, and it is through small tweaks as we talked about. For me, Les, I just thought things like, you've mentioned a couple of players there who were going to come back, with Boone and McNeil, James Garner. I think if we've got the opportunity to bring those players on in certain situations, I don't think necessarily Spurs might, score 2. I think we maybe see the game out a bit better. And I think maybe after a couple of months, down the line with Moyes in charge, perhaps those deficiencies can be ironed out. It's difficult to predict from now, but I just thought I thought there was so much to go off that game that we haven't seen recently to give us a lot of positivity, and rightly so. We've been devoid of positivity a lot these last few months, and I think that let's have it right. It's only our 4th win of the season, but it's come at a really good time for me. And you used the phrase there, breathing space, and I think one of the things that was really pleasing for me is not so much the victory for us, but the teams all around us failing miserably at the weekend. Yeah. Ipswich conceding 6 at home, and I know there's been a lot of chat about how Ipswich, out of all of the teams, could be the ones to potentially catch us up. And they imploded. Southampton, obviously, I think it's fair to say they're gone, but Leicester look miserable at the moment. And Wolves seem to have got over their manager bounce now, and there's a bit of trouble seems to be on the horizon there with Cunha potentially moving to Forest, and there seems to be a bit of a disagreement with the manager, who we all know very well, obviously, after this Sky Sports News phone call. Yeah, go on.
Just on him, I'm so made up that it's fallen apart there, and he's not that good. Imagine if he'd have gone into Wolves, and that wasn't just the new manager bounce, but he was amazing. Would have made us look a bit daft, wouldn't it?
I just, ever since that Sky Sports News phone call, I just thought, no, he cannot be the man. You can't operate in this way. And he called out the players in such a way, and he called out Cunha, didn't he? Which we're led to believe a little bit now is why he may be moving on. But I think to call out your captain in that way was probably a little bit naive, and you don't want your manager doing that. So yeah, I think, like I said, the breathing space from those results to the teams around us, and the fact we got that win, I think we go into Brighton now with a little bit of it's almost a free hit. I know a lot of people don't like that phrase because you want to take each game for its merit and you want to try and get a result. But I think we can look at it in that way. And obviously we're in January now, Les, too. It's the 22nd today as we record. We've got, I think, 9 days left of the window. And I think, there's been a lot of talk and certainly a lot of noises coming out from all areas that we are looking to make players, and the rumour mill's certainly gone into overdrive today and in the last couple of days. I expect us to bring 1, if not 2 in. I really do. I think that the squad needs a bit of support and a bit of help. And I think if we get that 1 or 2 signings coming in, then it could make all the difference again to make us really comfortable going into, early spring. But let's just think about the fact that if we don't bring a signing in, or if we did bring a signing in and they're injured or they don't hit the ground running, are you happy that the squad's got enough? And did Sunday give you enough to think the squad's got enough? Or are we still in that position where, no, we are relegation threatened, we need something extra here?
We're still definitely in that position. But the recency bias of a result like that, it sort of makes you think. I'm looking at Mykolenko now, I'm thinking, actually, he's been all right for 2 games here. We might not need cover at left back. We clearly still need cover at left back. Same with Lindstrom. Did well when he came in. I've thought all season, to be honest, that there's definitely more to come from him. He did look a bit lightweight, but I think that the few cameos he made, sort of in various parts of the season, he's looked quite direct. And you always thought that there was more to come from him. So hopefully Moyes can get more out of him. But again, I think if we can get someone with real pace down that right wing, I think that would be really helpful. So yeah, I think those deficiencies are still there, and even striker. I think Calvert-Lewin had one of his best games for a long time there. He was clearly getting more support from Ndiaye. You could see that they'd worked on that. Even though the team was lopsided with Lindstrom coming back to maybe make the sort of an auxiliary right wing back, and I didn't really track back that much. He didn't have to. He sort of, that left side was covered by Branthwaite and Mykolenko, so we could get further up and support Calvert-Lewin, which makes a big difference to Calvert-Lewin. My only gripe with that wasn't, I said this a while ago. Obviously, he was very, very isolated playing under Dyche, but I think if, as a striker and a senior professional at the club now, he's 27. He's coming into potentially his peak years. If he's so isolated on the pitch, he needs to a degree, disregard what the managers say and tell other players to disregard what the managers say. Say to Ndiaye, look, when this ball comes for me, I'm going to win this flick on. You get behind me. Instead of just everyone, playing out the manager's blueprint to the letter, basically. I think players need to take responsibility like that. And that was my only disappointment during the times when he was playing in the team. He looked like he was phoning it in. He didn't really look like he was bothered about getting a grip of it and making himself look better by getting more players around him. But, if that's now the instruction from the manager, they've got no excuse. But I mean, as good as he was and as good as that goal was, I'd still sell him this month if we could and get someone else in. Because, you know, he's just had a terrible season. His goal return hasn't been, you know, good enough over the past couple of seasons. So I'd probably look at that area as well. Where would you reckon we need to strengthen, really?
Well, just on Calvert-Lewin, I mean, look, I was as impressed as everyone was on Sunday with him. And I know there's been a lot of talk lately. And I've reached that point a while back now, a couple of months back, where I just feel that I'm a little bit tired of the 1 in 6 performances. And
yeah,
I think, like you said, that he is at this age now where it is time to take responsibility, and he can't get away with being the youngster anymore. He is an established Premier League footballer. And I just think, I mean, even on Sunday, he had that chance, didn't he, 1-on-1, and who knows, it might have been flagged off for offside, but he just didn't look composed at all. And listen, the goal was fantastic. I didn't think he was capable of that anymore, but he did really well for the goal. And the sad thing is, you watch that and you watch a game like that and a performance like that, and you go, where's that been? And that is the frustrating thing. And I think ultimately, look, he's going to leave the club. We all know that. And I agree with it. I think if we can get some form of money, and, you know, I'm looking at Arsenal there thinking, you probably need a Calvert-Lewin type who just, when it's in the box, put it in. Now, am I saying that he is top 4 ability or he's Arsenal quality? Maybe not, but Arsenal look just devoid of anything up front at the moment. And there's a couple of chances, for instance, when I watched Arsenal recently, that I've felt to have it, and I've thought, as much as I'm sort of against Dom at the minute, Dom would probably finish them with the better players around them, the way Arsenal play, and the way it just gives them another dimension, I think, Arsenal, which they're not used to having someone like him. So as ironic as it is that I don't think he's good enough for the reasons I've said with regards to his finishing and his composure, I think he'd be good enough at the moment for a team like Arsenal. So someone like them come in for him, you know, a couple of million, I'm inclined to say, yeah, sell as well. But obviously we'd need a replacement if that was to happen. And I also like the idea of having someone pacey out wide, and not necessarily out wide, someone quite direct. And I said this on another show the other week, that I loved it when Landon Donovan first came in, because I thought at the time he was just something a bit extra that we missed. Quite direct, running at players, and sometimes, you know, just running at somebody and getting a throw in, you know, in your area or in, you know, in the opposition's area and high up the pitch. And if we, you know, going back to that stat before, that we're winning tackles and we're winning the ball high up the pitch, if you've got someone who can run with the ball direct style and with pace, I think that's going to count for a lot. And Moyes has had that with, you know, with Jared Bowen and, you know, in teams of the past. And I think he tends to go for players like that, you know, not necessarily out and out goal scorers or strikers, but players who can get the ball into those dangerous positions. And I thought Everton did that a lot more. So if it was up to me, I think I said, you know, a while back as well, that we could probably muddle by the rest of the season without cover a full back. I think we've got players there who can step in and do a job. And I think the main thing for us is we've got to keep this momentum going where we score goals. And
yeah,
I think certainly for me, if we can add 1 or 2 pieces into those attacking areas still, and I think it will really help the likes of, just takes that pressure off in Jai. And if Lindstrom's not having, you know, is the game he had on Sunday every week, then it'll give us a little bit of help in that area. So that's what I would personally do. I do think, though, I think, like I said, we'll make a signing, but if we weren't to make any additions in January, I think we've still got enough to you know, to keep us up with the squad we've got, even though we would be, you know, it would be a concern some weeks, but we certainly got us playing better. And
yeah,
I think, go on.
I was just going to say, I just think that the idea of a player who can carry the ball up the pitch,
yes, definitely,
we've not had in a long time. We've got Ndiaye who can do it, and I think that was another thing actually when he came off at the weekend. Again, very similar to Bournemouth. When he came off, that out ball was gone, and we had to sit back like we did against Bournemouth. So if we've got someone else who can do that, because he's pretty much the only player who can do that for us at the minute. If you've got 2 players on the pitch that can do that, it terrifies the opposition. Because, and you know, if you can get the ball from the edge of your area into halfway into their half with one player just making a run, makes a huge difference to the defense. They know that he can get that ball and relieve the pressure. It means you don't have to hoof it long, so it's going to come back. If you've got 2 of those out balls, it makes the team, give the team another dimension, basically, because you've got 2 threats to carry the ball really far forward, win a free kick, like you say, win a throw in, you're up the pitch away from your own goal. So yeah, I'd say if we could get someone like that again, that would be amazing.
it gives us more balance, doesn't it? And you said it earlier about it was a bit lopsided the way we set up, with the focus taken maybe more away from Njai and having him as always as the outball. But I think that is a system we played Sunday that maybe if we kept playing it, you get found out eventually, and teams will learn how to work around that. So if you've got another player on the other side who can offer that outball, absolutely, that's where you're going to cause problems and be a threat going forward. So that certainly, it's going to be an intriguing 9 days, I suppose, going into the end of the window, and hopefully Everton do bring in one or two. But we can't look too far ahead because, as you mentioned earlier, Les, we've got a game against everyone's sort of favourite club. And I know I've been guilty of doing this in the past, of saying, what a great club they are and look how well they do things. And I think you said, and it was one thing that made me think last year was, Everton were on the same points as Brighton last year, for all they've been heralded as this magnificent club. But I do have to admit, I think the way they go about their business and the way they do things at Brighton have been very impressive. And I'd love Everton to get somewhere near that. But I also think they're one of them teams, and we've done this down the years. We've now and again against them. I know they turned us over this year in the first game of the season, but they're one of those teams where you feel if you are capable of getting a result. They are suspect now and again, aren't they, to a funny result here and there. And, they go away to Old Trafford and win, and they'll go to bigger teams and get results, but they'll lose to Wolves or someone like that. And I think they've had a few of them this year. So for me, I know we used the word free hit earlier, but I think we can certainly go into this game with some confidence and with the chance of getting something down there. Can Moyes, or is Moyes able to expose this Brighton team, or are they ultimately just going to be a side that have got too many good players, better players than us, and players in areas that can hurt us, and ultimately they'll get the victory that they're probably all expecting? Or, as I said, can we do something around that?
I don't see why not, really. I know it does feel like that, doesn't it? Like we said before, the pressure's been taken off of it by that Spurs result, so this does feel like maybe it is a free hit. But I don't think we should be looking at that game like this. We should be looking at it thinking, let's go there and get a point or a win. They're a weird team. It's like the 9th at the minute, and they seem to be having a fantastic season, but the 9th. Now, I know that's only 4 points off 6th, but still, they're still mid-table. Like last year, had a really good season, finished 10th. They seem just perpetually like bang in the middle of the mid-table, which obviously, I'd love for Everton at the minute. But I don't think we need to fear them as much as potentially we would do. I know the opening day, they sort of ripped us apart in the end, and that was just a bit of a disaster of a game all round, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, I think we should be going there looking for something, really. I know they got a good result against Man United. Everyone's done that except us. So, do you know what? Every time I see United result lately, it's like, okay, so they've been beat by them. They've been beat by them. They've been beat by them. And it's just, we're that standout result, aren't we, that they won? And absolutely led us as well. But yeah, I think, our record down there, let's say, where did we go from? Koeman. We won't go back as far as 82, 83. So 2017, 18, we've won 2, drawn 3, lost 2. So it's actually not that bad. We drew last season, obviously 1-1. Probably Dyche's second greatest game in charge of Everton, the 5-1. Absolutely led them, which pretty much sealed us staying up that season. So, and then the season before that, we beat them 2-0. We obviously had that weird 3-2 we were speaking to before we started recording, where they got that penalty from Michael Keane, which was just never a penalty in a million years. That was awful. Obviously, it had to be under Marco Silva, didn't it? The most unlucky Everton manager ever. But yeah, looking at where they are in the league, looking at our past results down there, I don't think we should be going down there with anything to fear. They've not beaten us since that game, by the way. At Brighton. Since that 3-2, they've not beaten us. So, it's not a place we should be going, like sort of thinking, oh God, it's going to be, we'll be lucky to get out of here with anything. Just go down and just do what we did against Spurs. Like you said, that should be a blueprint now. Obviously, they're better than Spurs, certainly at the minute. And I don't think they'll play as naively as Spurs. That's one thing I can't get my head around with that team. They've got some really good players, but they play so naively. It's mad. Obviously, you won't get that from Brighton, but I'd like to think Moyes has got enough about him to to get us a result down there. I'd like to think these players have as well. I was listening to the byline with Matt and Paddy, and they were both saying it was like when I said they'd been unleashed. They do look like the manager's gone in and said, you're actually decent players, you can do more than you've been told you can do. And we've said it a few times, haven't we, that Dyche went into this season with a really defeatist attitude from day one, which was weird. He talked everything down, and that will affect players. If they think that, they think they can't go out there and express themselves and just do the basics well and press a bit forward and, be a bit more expressive in what they do. It does it sort of as a player that'd really get you, and it knock your confidence. You're thinking, just got to play the dead safe pass, and invariably that's a pass back to Pickford. So I think we should have enough to go there and get something. Thinking full time results now. Brighton 3, Everton 0 again, but we move.
It's so funny talking about this team and Moyes, potentially going into them and saying you are better players than this, and you are. How many years before Moyes left was it, Dower Davy and negative football? And we even sung that song, didn't we, when he went to United, about United playing negative? And it seems so. I mean, maybe it speaks volumes to the fact that we were so negative and so one-dimensional and so predictable under Dyche that Moyes football almost looks like a million miles away from that. And like we said earlier, I don't think the Spurs game was necessarily a all-out attack. It was a very disciplined performance in a lot of ways. But like you said, it just feels like now the players can go to a place like Brighton and feel a bit more confidence and feel, a bit more like they're able to express themselves. And I'm surprised actually by the record you've just read out there, because I thought we'd actually been done a lot more times down there. It seems to be probably the only games I've been to where we've got beat. But yeah, no, we've done weird things at Brighton, and like you said, the 5-1 defeat of them the other year, where that just came out of nowhere, and that was madness. And then we had the 1-1 last year, where by all accounts we played. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Branthwaite's goal scored an absolute screamer.
Yeah, it was well, they won it.
But by all accounts, we did really well that day, and unfortunate not to take the 3 points in the end.
Yeah.
So it has been an all right ground for us to go down to. And I think, like I said, I think they're one of them teams that me and Dave talked about this on the show last week, about Spurs, saying that it was possibly a good time to play them, because on their day, Spurs are capable of putting 4 or 5 past you, but also they were at that point, Spurs, where you also felt that if Everton score, which we did, that we go on and get, and it could have been 4 or 5 for Everton in the first half, certainly. So,
easy.
I look at this Brighton game as similar in a way. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be as naive. I don't think they're not as bad. They're a much better team. I think they've got some really good individual players, and you've got the likes of even Danny Welbeck, who's 34 years of age, having a bit of a swan song in his career and proving to be a very effective forward for them. But I do also feel now that Everton can potentially go down, and if we score first, I think we've got it in us to make it really difficult for Brighton. And they are one of those teams. They are quite funny, like you said, slap bang in the middle. I thought they were higher than that. I thought they were at least top 6, top 7.
Yeah,
but they haven't hit the heights that's it. Yeah, but I know. Look, a couple of points are in it, of course, and this Premier League. You put a few results together, you're in the top half straight away. But they haven't hit the heights of, say, a Newcastle or what a Bournemouth have done, or even Fulham. And I don't know where Fulham are in the table at the minute. I don't even know if they're
just behind them. So
just behind. But Fulham to me feel like they haven't got as good a squad, but they're kind of punching above their weight a little bit. I almost feel like Brighton should be in sort of 7th, and like you said, they kind of not hit that stride yet, and they've had some fantastic performances where you've gone, oh my God, what a great team, and then they feel like they've had some disappointment ones as well. I mean, I don't know, where on the outside, you might get Brighton fans listening to this going, what are you talking about? But that's the impression it feels like from the outside. And I think that is what is going to give us, I feel, confidence going into it. So I think what we'll finish up on, we've got a few minutes left, Les. I am very confident of getting something, and it's a bit like that. If we got to win, have we? I think we're going to get confidence all of a sudden. It feels a bit like that, but I also saw a lot in that Spurs game to suggest that, like I said, Everton could go into this with some confidence. I feel that we've got a chance of getting a draw. I also wouldn't be surprised 100% now if we went down there and got a win. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we can get something there. It's going to be difficult because they've got players like Minter and Matoma who can they could potentially run us ragged, and it's going to be a case of really keeping those two quiet. Obviously, they've got good players all over the pitch, but yeah, I don't see why we need to go there with any fear. Yeah, I know it's like it's on the back of a good win against Tottenham, and like we said, like the caveat is it was Tottenham and they were bad, but by the same token, we were good. We made an improvement on our performance against Villa, which was an improvement on our performance against Bournemouth. So if we just keep improving like that, we're like 4 points clear of Wolves now with a game in hand. We all know what the game in hand is, but no reason we can't win that one either. But we've pulled away slightly from that group. We're stuck in 16th. Even if we win at the weekend, we'll still be below Spurs. But it will mean we do have that little gap between Wolves now. Wolves have got Arsenal at home at the weekend. Ipswich are playing Liverpool away. Southampton have got Newcastle at home. And Leicester have got Tottenham. So that's a big one. Tottenham-Leicester. I don't think Tottenham will lose that at all.
Is that at Spurs or is that at Leicester?
Spurs, yeah. I don't think they can afford to be honest. So, the fixtures look on paper quite kind. Now, I know it's not played on paper and anything can happen. But, on the face of it, I think we should all go into the weekend feeling quite positive about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I'm just looking at the fixtures ahead now as well after this weekend. And
it's a big month, isn't it, February?
Well, do you know what? I'm looking at them, Les, and look, you can only go off what we've seen last weekend to really base any judgments. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, Leicester the following week. Now, if we get a point against Brighton and we look ahead to that Leicester game, that's a real opportunity for us. And I know, look, anything can happen, and Leicester could maybe sack Van Nistelrooy and get a new manager and have new manager bounce and all that sort of thing. But all of a sudden, like you said, if we get the results that we expect now, after, if we get a point at the weekend, go into that Leicester game at home full of confidence and get a result, all of a sudden then you look at the table and you're going, right, we really are pulling away. And then the next set of fixtures after that, we've got Bournemouth in the Cup, the Derby, of course, which, it's got that thing about being the last Derby at Goodison, and again, anything can happen. I'm not holding out too much hope, but we were in a similar situation last season when we played them. And then I'm looking at the next two fixtures after the Derby, Crystal Palace away and Man United at home. We've done well recently at Palace. Yeah. And Man United, I mean,
we owe them massively.
We really do. And I think Moyes will want to owe them as well. And I think that
100%.
I can't see it happening for them for a while now, Man United. And that's a set of fixtures there where, look, we could lose the next four quite easily with Everton, but we could also do quite well in them next four, and as you say, pull away. So it's looking up, and this is the thing. It's what a win does, and I just feel if you can't take the positives from that win and look ahead and think positively, it wasn't a fluke win where you go, oh well, that's our one fluke for the season. We played really well, and if Everton do what they did on Sunday, like you said, and keep improving, little marginal gains here and there, I think over the next 4 to 5 games, we can pick up the points we need to start giving us, like we mentioned earlier, that breathing space and looking down at the teams below us and building a bit of a gap between them. So it is going to be interesting. And I think, hopefully Brighton will set us on our way. Hopefully we can get a point. If we get a win, it'll be absolutely massive.
Oh, yeah. Those games as well, I think is it 4 out of 5 at home as well, which...
including the cup game, I think so. So Leicester, Bournemouth.
That's another positive.
Yeah, Leicester, Bournemouth, Liverpool all at home, Palace away, and then United at home. So 4 out of the next 5. Yeah.
So that's something to be positive about as well, because there is definitely a different feel around the club. It's sort of I know Dave and Roger talked about retro Moyes at on Monday, but it does feel like that, doesn't it? There's that good feeling around the club, and you can see around the team as well. So
Roger thinks we're going to win the FA Cup. So I mean, listen, we must have had a win at the weekend.
There you go. Those parallels are there to be drawn, mate. But yeah, I think what, if we can't be positive now, when can we be?
100%, totally agree. Well, look, hopefully, like I said, we get that point, and hopefully Everton move on to better things towards the end of the season, and we can give ourselves a nice end to the season where we can. I heard the lads on the byline say, we want to get into these last few games of Goodison enjoying ourselves, and hopefully that will be the case. So that's it for your weekly this week. My thanks to Les for joining us, and looking ahead onto the Blue Room. I'll be back with Les this weekend when we record Mailbag. We're looking forward to that. We always like a mailbag, and I love doing it. It's a good listen. And if you haven't subscribed to us on Patreon or you haven't watched us on YouTube, give it a watch. It's a good little antidote for your weekend and good way to start the weekend and have a laugh with us. So give us a listen on that. Post-match will happen on the weekend after the game against Brighton as well. And then we head into next week where Blue Monday will be back. Les, you back on Blue Monday this
Blue
week,
Monday
next week?
Monday, yeah.
Les will be back on Blue Monday. And then the brilliant byline will be back with Paddy and with Matt Jones. So keep us here however you listen to us. Give us a listen through the usual channels. If you subscribe on Apple or you download us through Apple or any other means, give us a like or a subscribe. I know Matt's always hammering home the likes or subscribes. It really does help us. Leave us a review as well if you can. That would be amazing if you could say how great we are. And there's me begging for a few positives there, Les. But yeah, you've got all things Everton to be talked about here on the Blue Room right through the week, as well as your subs extra and other things through our subs weekly and different things like that as well. So keep listening to the Blue Room. We'll leave it there for this week. That's been your weekly. Up the toffees, and we'll speak to you soon.